Hi, Cinematic Enthuse here, and I've just started this YouTube channel. I am actually already on YouTube with my primary business, which is I'm actually a shamanic coach and what you would call a shamanic facilitator, tarot reader, empath, um, animistic educator. That's my primary business. But since I have a love for music and movies, for a long time I was on Twitter, actually initially selling movies as an Amazon seller. And I just thought I'd talk a little bit about my background before I tell you what I hope this YouTube channel will be about, and maybe eventually it'll develop into something more of a community. But um, music and movies have always been really important to me, and my entire life. And so basically, it's hard to tell which one came first. I'd say probably music came first, but I mean, movies were really very influential on me at an early age. Um, so um, Now it's kind of turned into basically music and movies are kind of like therapeutic for me because I feel like I need to use them as medicine. So even though I love I've seen a lot of movies, especially classic movies, and there are a lot of great movies out there that are very serious and very intense and very full of drama and full of really raw material. I think there's a lot of people who love that kind of raw um, aspect of cinema. I don't really enjoy that anymore. So the reason I bring this up is because I'd like to talk about aesthetics. Because I have been using music and movies aesthetically more as like kind of an escape or something to de-stress me or something to take me on an adventure, or sometimes I will occasionally watch a drama or watch something that's more serious, but I do tend to spend a lot more time around comedy and music. Um, I'd say that from my Twitter community that I had, I think I mostly spent time on Screwball Comedy from the 1930s all the way up until I think it goes all the way up until like the 90s, I'd say. There's a few maybe in the 2000s or 2010s, but if you use that term screwball comedy really loosely, it can go at least through the 20th century. And I think what I love about screwball comedy was, and it still is, the classic era, the 1930s and then the 40s. I'd say a lot of people talk about the, the really classic era being from like 1930-ish to like 1942 or 3, but I think it can extend way further into the um, later dates, depending on what your tastes are. But like the really intensely um, fabulous screwball comedies, I think, are basically from 1930 to 1942, 3, 4, maybe 45. There's a few in the late 40s that are pretty good. And so I thought I'd talk about that first, and then I'm gonna probably flip flop because that's just how I roll. I may tell you a little about my background in a minute, but back to screwball comedy. Okay, so screwball comedy kind of came around for me again. It's kind of come up a couple times in my life, but it came around to me again around, I guess, about 5 or 6 years ago, and I just got really into it. I started to really watch a lot of them and get them out of the library and try to find them online. And especially 30s and 1930s and 40s. And I was especially, and still am, enamored with Cary Grant. Cary Grant in the 1930s, Cary Grant in the 1940s. It's not to say I don't like him after that. I do. I like a lot of his movies. But I really love the, I'd say 1936 to about 1941, 42. It's a very short period of time, but that time period is really like, it's kind of like if you were to think about, and I'm going to do this because I flip flop around. If you were to think about like the core, the core era of disco, the core era of disco music would be like what, 1975 or something to like 1980-ish, 80, 81. You know, the real core of it, right? So like that's how I feel about screwball comedy. It's like there's a lot of them in the early 30s, or and we're just talking about Cary Grant right now. So like I love Wedding Present, and that's a really hard to find unless you can get the DVD. That's a great, great little screwball comedy of his. I don't know why. I just love it. Then there's, of course, the benchmark, I think, of all screwball comedies is Bringing Up Baby. And what's weird about Bringing Up Baby is when I first saw it about, I'd say, I think I saw it in my 20s. No, my early 30s. So that was like, I don't know, 20 years ago. And I was like, I don't know. I like it's good, but you know, there was something about it that I just didn't quite get. And then for some reason, about 5 years ago, I saw it again, and I was like, oh my god, this is a masterpiece. You know, so these things come along, and you know, maybe you watch them at one point in your life, and you're like, it was good, but I didn't quite get it. You know, and then you may come back to it at a later date, you know, and you never know about movies. And there's other movies I've seen where I was, when I was younger, where I was like, that was the most awesome movie ever, and now I watch it again and I'm like, what was I thinking? You know, either it was good, but it wasn't like amazing or something, you know. So that happens. But anyway, so Bringing Up Baby, I think, is a masterpiece. Um, it's like the perfect combination of a great director, a great leading man, a great leading woman, some excellent supporting cast people who were, um, several were from vaudeville, and of course Cary Grant was from vaudeville. You'll hear me talk about vaudeville a lot because, and I may bring up some of why I love vaudeville later. But yeah, those two people obviously went on to become big stars. But in 1939, as you may know, when Bringing Up Baby came out, I think Katharine Hepburn was deemed box office poison for some reason. I'll have to check out what the exact reason was. I think it had something to do with, you know, a couple failed pictures of hers, but I think they still went after her a little bit more than they should have. But luckily, when she went back to theater in 1940, she did the um, Philadelphia Story on stage, and then obviously that brought her back to Hollywood, and I think that was what kind of, between 1939 Bringing Up Baby and I think I've got the right year, and 1940 of the Philadelphia Story, that was a good time for her in terms of, it was kind of an extreme time where she went from being poisoned to being really popular. So you never know about Hollywood, right? Um, and